Do you feel you have equitable access to travel in British Columbia? British Columbia is defined by its Pacific coastline and beautiful mountain ranges. There is no shortage of travel opportunities, from Whistler to Tofino to the Okanagan and beyond. With 1 in 5 Canadians and approximately 15% of British Columbians living with one or more disabilities, these opportunities must be accessible to all. Presented by the Disability Foundation and hosted by the Connectra Society, this next Accessible Community Forum aims to cultivate a conversation between our panel of experts and our community. Join us in person on Friday, March 10th, 2023, from 1 o'clock p.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre for this inclusive and informative event on accessible travel. Doors open at 12:30 p.m. Register to claim your spot for free at accessibletravelacf.eventbrite.ca. Hello and welcome back to Discover Stories on Reimagine Radio. I'm Sarah Smith, a student intern at the Vancouver Adapted Music Society and your host of Discover Stories. Today I'll be having a conversation with Shareen Pasco. She is the program coordinator at the Disabled Independent Gardeners Association, or DIGA. And just before we jump into our conversation, it's important that I take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we're fortunate to host this podcast. This is the unceded and ancestral territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and it has been stewarded by them since time immemorial. Vancouver is located on territory that was never ceded or given up to the Crown by these peoples. The term unceded acknowledges the dispossession of the land and the inherent rights that the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh hold to the territory. The term also serves as a reminder that these peoples have never left their territories and will always retain their jurisdiction and relationships with the land. Shareen, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Just to start off, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Okay. Well, my name is Shareen Pasco, and I have been involved with DIGA since 2019. Um, I actually started volunteering for Disability Foundation, some of the other societies, and was introduced to DIGA in the spring of 2019. And I love gardening, and I love helping people, and just bringing those two worlds together is just a delight.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like a really great intersection of two things that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, not only I think the social aspect, but just getting people involved in growing their own herbs and produce and flowers, just kind of that joy.
Yeah, absolutely. So sort of on this note about your passion for gardening that's clearly coming through, how did you get involved in gardening in the first place, and when did that passion begin for you?
So it started actually as a really young child. Gardening has always just fascinated me. I grew up on a family farm. A lot of our produce was from our garden, and my mother just got all the children involved in pretty much all aspects of gardening: the planting, the weeding, harvesting, and yes, like picking these gross horned caterpillars off of tomato plants. So yeah, just growing and preserving your own food just brings just a sense of pride and happiness. You're constantly learning, and just the simplicity of getting your hands just in the dirt, just connecting with nature that way just brings, yeah, a lot of just joy.
Yeah, totally. And I love that you mentioned too, like growing your own food, because I think that in a lot of A lot of people nowadays sort of just, they go to the grocery store, they buy their stuff, and you don't necessarily think about where that's coming from or how it's being produced. And so having that connection there, I think, is really valuable as well.
Yeah, it's so true. We go to the store, we don't even think about where it comes from, whose hands have been on it, in terms of like the amount of work that has gone into it, because it is a lot of work, and just nurturing your plants, and just paying attention to them, caring for them. Yeah, it's a really cool process.
I love the way that you say nurturing your plants as well, because I think that that's like a bi-directional relationship because we nurtured them and then they in turn nurture us by giving us nutrients and fueling us.
They do. Yes, yes, they nourish our bodies. And I think when you personally care for your plants, whatever you grow, there's that love that you put into it. Yes, that you say returns to you. So
Totally. I love that. I love that sentiment.
yes, me too.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned a bit about how you started initially volunteering for the Disability Foundation and
Yeah.
then you made your way over to DIGA. I don't know if we've said this yet, but DIGA stands for the Disabled Independent Gardeners Association.
Yes.
I love that the name has the word dig in it and it's gardening. That works so nicely together.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about DIGA and what DIGA is and what it offers?
Sure, of course. So, as you said, DIGA stands for Disabled Independent Gardening Association. We're an inclusive, warm, community and volunteer driven organization. We were established in Vancouver in 2003 to help people overcome barriers to gardening, just faced by people with disabilities, particularly physical disabilities. So we hold educational workshops related to gardening, just online and in person. We also work with Tetra Society of North America, and they will build gardening tools for our clients. And so volunteers will come out, meet with the gardener one on one to assess their needs, and they'll come up with a solution together to help our clients garden.
Oh, very cool. So it's like a sort of a personalized, adapted tool or structure or something related to gardening.
Exactly, exactly. So it's an adapted gardening tool for them. So yeah, we're involved in 7 community gardens with 19 plots.
Wow.
Um, and we're just growing more and more each year. When I started back in 2019, DIGA was only active in 2 community gardens. So it's just been a delight to see, our community grow and expand.
Yeah, that's amazing. And are those 7 community gardens? You said 19 plots. Are those all sort of scattered across the Lower Mainland, or what's sort of the geographical reach or area there?
So they're all in Vancouver, east and west side. We also have an accessible garden at GF Strong Rehabilitation Center.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And a moment ago, you also mentioned Tetra Society providing sort of personalized, adapted gardening tools. Could you give us maybe an example of what that might look like for your clients?
Oh, sure. So if there's not a lot of arm strength to dig or to use a trowel, um, a strap can be added to a tool to help, just with the leverage and the strength, to the forearm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so like a bit of extra support there.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, that can be another barrier as well. If people think, I don't have the arm strength to be able to lift this tool.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Tetra has been a big help with that. And
Sounds like it's a good sort of partnership with them there as well, having that relationship.
very good partnership.
Yeah. So, what exactly do you do with DIGA as the program coordinator?
Okay, so I coordinate all of our volunteers, which we couldn't do it without our volunteers. We're a volunteer-driven organization. We couldn't do it without them. So our volunteers, you know, will weed, will plant, will harvest for our clients, and then there's also that social interaction as well, just building those relationships, which is really important too.
Yeah, I love that. A bit of a sense of community, like through gardening.
Exactly. And, sharing tips and hacks and, recipes and just, chatting about what they're going to make with their zucchini.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And just sharing stories.
Yeah, connecting over food and
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm in charge of the volunteers, just coordinating volunteers with our members. Sometimes they meet on a weekly or biweekly basis. Um, I'm also in charge of content for workshops and for social media. Also, just creating new partnerships, reaching out to people that may not be aware of DIGA and what we do, um, and meeting people that way, and creating, different ideas. Potentially, like workshops around workshops. Um, yeah, or what we can do, how we can partner in the future.
awesome. So a bit of connection and networking as well. Sounds like you wear a lot of hats over there.
Yes, yes.
That's good. That's awesome. Speaking of the workshops, could you talk a little bit about the workshops that DIGA has offered in the past, and maybe if you have any coming up in the new year, any that you hope to offer?
Yes. So in the past, just some of the different ones that we've put on: companion planting, seed saving, worm composting. One of our clients actually put that on. He has a worm composting unit, which was pretty cool. Yeah, just beginner gardening tips. A lot of times people feel overwhelmed. They're like, I haven't gardened before. And so, yeah, we put on every year just kind of beginner gardening tips or just 101 introduction to gardening. We've also had like nutrition workshops. And then we do have in person workshops where we get to like make and take home something. So hands on. And then we also have some lined up with GardenWorks, one of our partners, around tomato, potato, cruciferous vegetable hacks, mason bee care, and just the importance in the garden. We'll also have a series around nutrition with Renee Chan. She's a dietitian, chef, and owner of True Nosh in Vancouver. And that will be going on from April to November. Um, a couple of them will be online, but the others will be in person. So again, just bringing community together, just that social aspect, and then food.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that there's such a range of topics for those workshops as well, like kind of something for everyone and
Hmm.
different things that are interesting and new being explored.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And just a note about the workshops, how do folks register or sign up for those? And is there a charge to attend, or how does that all work sort of logistically?
So to become a member, DIGA member, there is no charge. So being involved in the community gardens or workshops, there's never a charge,
Okay,
which is pretty awesome because that could be a barrier as well.
totally.
And then how to join in on the workshops? If you go to our website, digabc.org, there is a calendar of events, and you can click on whatever workshop and register that way.
Very exciting.